You know, I wouldn't want to go to Dick Cheney's funeral. If I were President Donald Trump and I were J.D. Vance and I just got snubbed, I didn't receive an invitation to Dick Cheney's funeral, I'd be thrilled. Not because I have anything against Dick Cheney, but, you know, Liz Cheney's probably going to be there. And I know, look, you got to pay your respects and all that, but I don't feel like putting Don. I know that Wyoming's a big place, but I don't think that Donald Trump and JD. I don't think there's enough room between Donald Trump and Liz Cheney, even in Wyoming. What's up? This is Mark K. Saves the Republic. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining me today. And if you're not yet following this program, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on with that. That's a horrible decision. You should probably decide right at this moment. Make the move. Do it. You know you want to. Just do it. Make the move and join us. By subscribing to Mark K. Saves the Republic. It's really easy to do. There's a button somewhere on this page that says subscribe, or maybe it says notify me, or maybe it says follow. There's all kinds. Maybe there's a little bell that goes ding-a-ling-a-ling, and just by hitting that bell, you can also subscribe to the show. That's another thing. That also happens often. People just that way you get notified. It's not just that you know when the show. It's not just that you follow the show, but you know exactly when the show starts because they tell you. They're really good. They're really good about that. We are awaiting a press briefing from the press secretary of the United States of America, Caroline Leavitt. One Caroline Leavitt, who will have a lot to talk about because President Donald Trump, got snubbed by Dick Cheney and his family for. I guess Dick Cheney didn't snub the president. It must have been his heirs, the people that were left. And here's the thing about the Dick Cheney snubbing. Dick Cheney's family invited every other living president to the funeral, and also Joe Biden. Thank you very much. I'll be here all week. All the living presidents and Joe Biden. All the living vice presidents and also Joe Biden. Because remember, that dude was both. In fact, I have to think of all the living presidents and vice presidents. I think at the moment, Joe Biden was the only one that held both jobs, right? Joe Biden was vice president under Barack Obama. He was president under the auto pen. Bill Clinton was just president. George W. was just president. Before that, he was governor of the state of Texas. Al Gore was just vice president and was never president. We remember that whole thing. Who else am I missing? Dick Cheney. Well, he's dead. And Kamala Harris, never president. So yeah, she was just the Veep. And I think everyone else has long since gone. George H.W. has passed. God rest his soul. And did I say Al Gore? Yeah, Al Gore. Yeah, that's it. That's all the living presidents. And then Joe Biden. I guess again, technically he was both. So anyway, that's coming. I don't even know when that is, but here's another exciting thing about the funeral of Vice President Dick Cheney being Trumpless. They're not going to break into programming anymore. Because if Donald Trump were there and J.D. Vance were there, they would break into programming. They would break into the news, and they would just show the whole boring. They would show the whole thing, and don't nobody want to see any of that. Like I said, we're waiting for this press briefing from Caroline Leavitt, and there's a lot to talk about, of course. The Epstein files were signed. President Donald Trump signed the Epstein Files Transparency Act, or whatever that bill was called. It had some big long name. It was the bill originally introduced by Thomas Massie, ironically, and it passed the House, and only one Republican voted against it. I'm still not really 100% sure why. We've talked about it a little bit. Nobody really knows why that one dude voted against it, but he did. And then on top of all that, it flew right through the Senate. In fact, they voted on a unanimous consent before the bill even landed in the Senate. Hold on, there's a dent in my hat. Could be a dent in my head. I'm not sure, but it's kind of annoying me. They voted on a unanimous consent to pass it off to the president's desk before it even landed in the Senate. So when it finally did, they moved it to the president's desk. And Donald Trump has now signed that bill into, I guess, would it be law? I guess it is. Here's the New York Times reporting of it. Trump approves the release of the Epstein files, but loopholes remain. Of course, the New York Times would talk about loopholes remaining. Why am I off center? Hang on, let me move myself over. There we go. I was a little off kilter there, and I didn't want to be I didn't want to be off kilter, so I want to move. Anyway, the president sought to take credit for the legislation despite months of pressure to kill it. The bill has significant exceptions that could mean many documents would stay confidential. Relenting to pressure from his base, President Trump on Wednesday announced on social media that he signed legislation calling on the Justice Department to release its files on the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein within 30 days. Mr. Trump's signature does not guarantee the release of all the files. The bill contains significant exceptions, including a provision protecting continuing investigations, which could mean many documents would stay confidential. In a lengthy announcement on Truth Social, Mr. Trump focused on Democrats who were connected to Mr. Epstein and said the furor over the Democrats was a distraction to hurt his administration. We have, by the way, that truth. I should probably pull that up. Let's go right to the horse's mouth. Oh, Donald Trump is writing seditious behavior. I assume I know exactly what he's talking about. Punishable by death. I know exactly. We'll get to that here. In just a minute. But let's go to his lengthy Truth Social post about the Epstein files. Here we go. Hold on. It's down here. Here we go. Jeffrey Epstein. Make it a little bit bigger. Jeffrey Epstein, who was charged by the Trump Justice Department in 2019, not the Democrats, was a lifelong Democrat, donated thousands of dollars. Hold on, let me just make sure the volume's up so we don't miss Caroline. Donated thousands of dollars to Democrat politicians and was deeply associated with many well-known Democrat figures such as Bill Clinton, who traveled on his plane 26 times, Larry Summers, who just resigned from many boards, including Harvard, sleazebag political activist Reid Hoffman, Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who asked Epstein to donate to his campaign after Epstein was charged, Democrat Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett, and many more. Perhaps the truth about these Democrats and their associations with Jeffrey Epstein will soon be revealed, because I have just signed the bill to release the Epstein files. As everyone knows, I asked Speaker of the House I asked Speaker of the House Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader John Thune to pass this bill in the House and Senate respectively. Because of this request, the votes were almost unanimous in favor of passage. At my direction, the Department of Justice has already turned over close to 50,000 pages of documents to Congress. Do not forget, the Biden administration did not turn over a single file or page related to the Democrat Epstein, nor did they ever even speak about him. Democrats have used the Epstein issue, which affects them far more than the Republican Party, in order to try and distract from our amazing victories, including the great big beautiful tax cut bill, strong borders, no men in women's sports, or transgender for everyone, ending DEI, stopping Biden's record-setting inflation, lowering prices, biggest tax and regulation cuts in history, ending 8 wars, rebuilding our military, knocking out Iran's nuclear capability, getting trillions of dollars invested in the USA, creating the hottest country anywhere in the world, and even delivering a huge defeat to the Democrats on the recent shutdown disaster. For years, our great nation has had to endure Russia, Ukraine, impeachment hoax number 1, impeachment hoax number 2, and many other Democrat-created witch hunts and scams, all of which have been so terrible and divisive for our country, and have been done to confuse, deflect, and distract from the great job that Republicans and the Trump administration are doing. This latest hoax will backfire on the Democrats, just as all the rest have. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. So that was President Donald Trump's announcement about releasing the Epstein files, or signing the bill rather to release the Epstein files. And that is where we stand today. And again, I imagine a lot of these questions coming up at the press briefing will have to do with the Epstein files, the DOJ, the document release dates, when they'll be released, when we'll have all this information. There's also an ongoing battle now between the House of Representatives and the Senate over this provision that allows senators who were spied upon by the DOJ under Joe Biden to sue for millions of dollars. They can sue for up to $500,000 per incident, and Lindsey Graham said he already plans to sue for tens of millions of dollars. This would then, we believe, result in settlements where all of these Republican senators would get millions of taxpayer dollars from the DOJ. Mike Johnson is not happy about it in the House. He doesn't like that it's there. I don't know what he's going to do about it. I don't know what he can do about it. But John Thune has admitted that it's something that they're going to keep in, and they're not going to probably remove it. So, and it's now been signed. So, like I said, there's probably I guess it's in. I guess it's done. And now Lindsey Graham's going to file a lawsuit and get his payday from the DOJ, as will all of the other senators and Republicans on that list who were taken advantage of by Joe Biden's Department of Justice. That is a little bit of a tricky spot, right? That is, you do want justice to be served, and you want people who were wronged by the government to make, to get repercussions. But at the same time, do you want them to be able to vote in the bill and sign the bill that will grant them the repercussions from the current government? I don't know. It's one of those things that you never really, you got to really sit and think about what's right, what's wrong. And there may be no right answer either way. Although I'm kind of leaning to, probably that's not the best look for politicians, for senators, for anybody representing the people to sue the country for millions and millions of dollars after they've given themselves the power to do so. That's just the first step. There's a bunch of other stuff going on today, too, that we're going to get to. And that includes, of course, whatever Caroline Leavitt is discussing in the press briefing today. Now, President Donald Trump has also announced that he's going to be meeting with Zohran Mamdani. Zohran Mamdani. In fact, there was... Oh, you know what? Before we get to that, I got to get to this. This is crazy. Look at this. The Department of Homeland Security released I guess it's a memo to the American people. I've never seen anything like this before. It was Homeland Security released this on their X. It says, rent is too high. There are tens of millions of criminal illegals in our country. Groceries cost too much. There are tens of millions of criminal illegals in our country. There aren't enough jobs. There are tens of millions of criminal illegals in our country. Women don't feel safe walking down the street. There are tens of millions of criminal illegals in our country. Traffic is terrible. There are tens of millions of criminal illegals in our country. Healthcare is too expensive. There are tens of millions of criminal illegals in our country. Welfare spending is through the roof. There are tens of millions of criminal illegals in our country. I can't afford a car. There are tens of millions of criminal illegals in our country. I can't afford a house. There are tens of millions of criminal illegals in our country. Many problems, a simple answer. That was posted by the Homeland Security Department on their official X page, which I've never seen anything like it. It's written like a memo, or like it's written, almost just like a regular post would be. And again, I got to hand it to the overall Donald Trump administration social media departments. They are on it, man. They destroy anything that the Democrats are doing anywhere, and it is really, really kind of exciting to see. I did want to delve into this seditious, where Donald Trump wrote, seditious behavior punishable by death. And I think that it's, where is it? I think that it's regarding what we played the other day. Yeah, here it is. Donald Trump reacted to the video. You may remember, here we go. This is it. Democrat veterans in Congress urge service members to refuse unspecified, unlawful orders. Donald Trump wrote, this is really bad and dangerous to our country. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. Seditious behavior from traitors, lock them up. President DJT. Now, I played this video again this morning on the 47 Daily Podcast. If you don't follow the 47 Daily Podcast, it's easy to find. Just go to the47daily.com and you can subscribe on iTunes or Spotify, wherever you want. And you can listen every single day to our morning update, which is stellar, if I do say so myself. But here it is again. Here's the video from these seditious traitors that Donald Trump says are a danger to our country, and other people agree.
I'm Senator Alyssa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly.
Representative Chris DeLuzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow. I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
and the intelligence community
who take risks each day
to keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens. Like us, you all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
Right now, The threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
but from right here at home. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
Okay, and that's, I'm not going to play the whole, there's like 40 more seconds. But you remember that, you get the gist. These are representatives in Congress who formally swore an oath under some other organization or military branch of service. They swore an oath to protect and uphold the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And now they've sworn it again to get into Congress. And now they're acting like enemies of the United States, both foreign and domestic, or I guess domestic in this case, by urging the military to defy orders. They're urging the military to defy orders openly. One of these guys, Jason Crow from Colorado, was on Fox News with Martha McCallum, and he tried to make her into the bad guy for questioning him for telling active duty troops to defy orders from the commander-in-chief.
That's unfortunate that in politics these days people grab something and twist it and contort it and lie.
Some might say that
make it into
you have
something
grabbed
it's
something
not.
and twisted it and contorted it. You have, you're talking to young members of the American military, and you're not telling them specifically what it is they should see as illegal. So you're putting ideas into their head that maybe they're being asked to do something illegal, and what we're seeing actually is recruitment rising. And people wanting to join the military under the president.
Here's an interesting fact for you, Martha. Our men and women actually are very smart, very incredible men and women in our military. And
you don't have to tell me that.
Well, apparently I do.
No, you don't, sir. I have great respect for the United States military.
Well, you don't think they can handle a reminder about federal law and the UCMJ, is what I'm hearing. And a recent survey showed that 8 out of 10 service members deeply understand their obligation of lawful orders, right? 8 out of 10. So we want to get that. That should be 10 out of 10. But this is something that they're trained on. Go and look at the training. Maybe even go and participate or observe some of the training that our men and women go through. It is incredible. We expect a lot of these men and women. They go through very intense, rigorous training because they're put in intense, rigorous positions. And frankly, I bristle at the notion that they can't handle a suggestion or a reminder of what the law requires them to do and what the Constitution requires them to do.
By the way, I don't trust any guy who uses the term "I bristle at." If you're bristling at something, then you got to man up. If you're bristling at anything, you do not deserve a seat in. You should not be representing anybody. I bristle at the idea that these men and women can't take a suggestion or a gentle reminder. This guy's he's such a d-bag. The D I thought stood for Democrat, but it clearly stands for d-bag.
You actually disparage them when you say that a simple reminder is something they cannot handle.
You're wrong. You're 100% wrong. I didn't disparage them in any way. In fact, I give them enormous credit.
You don't think they can handle reminders about their legal obligations?
I think perhaps if it was specific and they could figure out what order you're referring to. I have the most deep respect for everyone who serves in the military, including you, sir, for the sacrifice that you made. I did not make that sacrifice myself, so I put everyone who makes that sacrifice in a very special place in my heart. And I believe they're there to serve the country. So you have put out this video. It's getting a lot of attention. I thank you for
there. By the way, I don't know why she's thanking him. There was another part where, hold on. Oh wait, I think the press conference is starting. If the press conference is starting, we'll have to come back to this. But there was another part of that video where Martha McCallum pressed him on which parts he was talking about. What are you talking about? What exactly are you saying? Where is it? In fact, you know what? Maybe we have another minute here. Where is it that you see?
That's unfortunate that in politics these days people.
Yeah, hang on. I think it's this one here.
That's unfortunate.
what they want. I just wanted to give you an opportunity in the military, including you, sir.
Here it is. I think I just skipped it. No, there was a part where he went on and on and on about the orders. Maybe this is it.
That's unfortunate.
Trump derangement.
No, it's the same thing. But they went on and on and on about how he couldn't specify a particular order. Oh, here we go.
I brought a very special guest with me today, as you can see, Secretary McMahon. So I will begin my remarks. She's going to speak, and then we'll take some questions. She'll take questions, and I'll take questions from you as well.
Linda McMahon,
First off,
Secretary of Education.
First Lady Melania Trump and Second Lady Usha Vance traveled to Marine Corps Air Station New River in Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, where they spent the day meeting with students, educators, military families, and United States Marines. Both the First Lady and Second Lady were grateful for the warm welcome and remain deeply committed to supporting military families and the communities that serve our great nation. May God bless all of them. In economic news, the September jobs report showed the American economy remains strong, with 119,000 new jobs added, more than double expectations. These gains came after the summer passage of President Trump's historic tax cuts and multiple big trade deals with countries around the world. In particular, construction jobs surged by 19,000 in September, the largest monthly gain in a year. Nearly all of this solid monthly job growth came from the private sector and went to Americans rather than foreign-born workers, the opposite of what we saw under the previous administration. Inflation also remains under control, and wages are up by 3.8% over the year for American workers because of President Trump's pro-growth policies. In fact, real wages are on pace to increase roughly $1,200 for the average worker this year under President Trump. This is a complete reversal of the failed Biden era, when we saw inflation skyrocket to 9%. Causing private sector workers to see their wages decline by approximately $3,000. We know that Americans are still hurting from the 4-decade high inflation caused by Joe Biden and the Democrats. But President Trump is making significant progress to fix this, and he will not stop working until he solves it. As the president recently stated, he is never satisfied.
That is true.
For example, President Trump's policies are working to make Americans' Thanksgiving more affordable this year, from their commute to the dinner table. Nearly 100 million Americans are expected to drive next week to spend time with loved ones for the holiday. And thanks to President Trump's drill baby drill agenda, the national average price of a gallon of gas on Thanksgiving Day is projected to be at the cheapest price since the COVID pandemic in 2021. President Trump is bringing down gas prices and providing significant savings to American families at the pump. And again, we expect those prices to continue to decline. According to the American Farm Bureau Federation's annual survey, cooking Thanksgiving dinner will also cost less this year than it did last year and is down about 5% overall. The average price for a staple of the meal, a 16-pound frozen turkey, is down more than 16% from last year, which will provide critical savings for families and their budgets. President Trump's entire economic agenda is aimed at putting more money back into the pockets of hardworking Americans. That's why he signed the largest middle tax cuts in history into law, from no tax on overtime, no tax on tips, to no tax on Social Security. And according to a new study from Piper Sandler, which is out this week, tax filers can expect an extra $1,000 bump to their tax refund next year in what could be a record-breaking tax refund season. So there is more good news to come. We know these refunds will make a huge difference for Americans to help pay down their bills and use towards life's expenses. In other news this week, President Trump took a significant step toward delivering on a core campaign promise to finally close the Department of Education. To shrink the bloated federal bureaucracy, the Department of Education just entered into new interagency agreements with 4 agencies: the Departments of Labor, Interior, Health and Human Services, and State. These agencies will now ensure the delivery of legally required programs while also refocusing them to better serve students. This common sense action brings the Trump administration much closer to finally returning education where it belongs, at the state and local level, not in Washington, D.C. The Democrats' reckless 43-day government shutdown did manage to do one valuable thing.
Yes.
It proved that America does not need a federal Department of Education.
That is true.
During the longest shutdown in history, the Department of Education furloughed 90% of its staff, and America's education system was not impacted whatsoever. Schools stayed fully open across the country. Students attended class and received normal in-person instruction, and our wonderful teachers received their paychecks uninterrupted. The Democrats' government shutdown made it painfully obvious that American families do not need the Department of Education.
Burn.
Since its creation in 1979 during the Carter administration, the Department of Ed has spent over $3 trillion taxpayer dollars without improving student achievement. Despite pure pupil spending having increased by more than 245% since the 1970s, math and reading scores are down in public schools. In fact, the most recent Nation's Report Card from 2024 showed that 13-year-olds' math scores are the lowest they've been in decades, and their reading scores are the lowest since testing began more than 30 years ago. It's clear that throwing more money at a broken system does not work, and that's why President Trump appointed the amazing leader behind me, our Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, who is making these monumental changes at the direction of the president. We're very grateful to have you here today to talk about these changes and then take some questions. Hopefully folks in this room will have some questions on the very important topic of education. So please, Mrs. Secretary.
Thank you.
By the way, this is something that should not be shocking to anybody, that the government shutdown proved how worthless the government actually is and how much the states can get along without it. And education is one of the biggest wastes of everybody's time.
About the work this administration is doing in education to reverse our national decline with a hard reset.
By the way, it's so funny because I still remember her from wrestling days. Like, she literally, there's video of her in the wrestling ring throwing chairs at people. It's really great.
Washington's micromanagement of education once and for all. This week we took the most decisive steps thus far to make good on this promise to you. We have linked 6 groundbreaking partnerships with other federal agencies to delegate education department programs that are redundant with existing programs at Labor, State, Interior, and HHS. These interagency agreements to cut our own bureaucratic bloat are a key step in our efforts to shift educational authority from Washington, D.C. to your state education agency, your local superintendent, your local school board, entities that are accountable to you, and we encourage parents to always be involved. Cutting federal bureaucracy is never a popular move among D.C. insiders. A chorus of anti-Trump voices have come out of the woodwork to complain that we are defunding education, harming students, or acting without a plan. This could not be further from the truth.
Yeah.
The majority of Americans across the country handed to President Trump the popular vote precisely because they have seen the brokenness of a top-down education system run by the federal government. They're painfully aware that only 3 out of 10 students can read proficiently at their grade level.
Yeah.
They know that college students are collectively $1.7 trillion in debt, and less than half of college graduates get a job that actually uses the degree which they studied so hard to get. They see more teachers than ever before leaving the profession due to burnout, over-regulation, and lack of autonomy in the classroom.
Yeah.
Anti-Trump voices are stirring up fear that returning education to the states is a draconian action. When Americans hear that we are shutting down the department, but given no other details, 51% oppose it. But when those same Americans are informed of our plans to preserve important elements of our work in other federal agencies and to maintain the K-12 funding that is distributed to the states, that number flips to an even greater majority at 56%.
All right, I'm going to pull her down for just a second because this is something that we're seeing across the board. It started with SNAP. You may remember that when when the government was reopened, instead of just dishing out all of the SNAP payments again back to the state so that they could distribute them any way, shape, or form they wanted to, people were forced to reapply. So you have to go, and that's something that happens regularly. You have to reapply. But what happened was there were a lot of people who were almost, it was a reapplication process that almost guaranteed you receiving your benefits. But they found millions and millions of people who were dead, who were receiving SNAP benefits. And that's something that they're trying to do away with in the Department of Agriculture. Now in the Department of Education, they were like, man, we were shut down for 47 days and nothing bad happened. That's great. We don't need the Department of Education at all. And that's something Donald Trump campaigned on and said he was going to get rid of when he ran.
As a department is to fully empower states to carry the torch of our educational renaissance.
Which is how it should be.
Education is local. It should be overseen locally by those who best know local needs. We're not ending federal support for education. We are ending federal micromanagement and paving the way for education renewal through state reforms like school choice, the science of reading, and restoring the right priorities in higher education. President Trump promised to send education back to the states, and we're keeping that promise. America's next generation will look back on the work we've carried out, thankful for an education system that prioritizes students over bureaucracy.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Here we go. All right, Caroline's coming back. She's going to take some
Secretary,
questions,
if you have them.
and we'll see what happens.
Elizabeth, why don't
Oh,
you
these are
start?
questions for the secretary.
Joining us. You announced the partnership to move some functions of the Education Department to other agencies. Are you talking to members of Congress about codifying this so that it lasts beyond the administration?
Yes, we started our conversation, and thanks very much for asking that, because there have been some reports that Congress is in the dark on this. That's clearly not true. We've been talking to, I've talked to dozens of members of Congress to explain to them exactly what we're doing, to bring them up to speed, and to say to them, look, when we have completed some of these transfers that are working incredibly well, then we will be looking to Congress to codify those, make them permanent.
Brian.
Thank you. Secretary McMahon, what is the update on the negotiations with Harvard? I know the president has publicly pointed to you as somebody who's worked on that. I think you've talked about that at length, but I'd like to understand where are things with those negotiations with Harvard this time?
They're ongoing negotiations, and we feel I feel very comfortable that we are getting close to having those negotiations finalized. It's been open door conversation all along.
Deanna?
Hello, Mrs. Secretary. The President recently posted about establishing a federal standard for AI. Do you know if the administration has a view on the use of AI for students in schools? And Caroline, do you know if the President personally uses AI?
Do you know if the president personally uses AI? Have you read his tweets?
Well,
or his
I do
truths?
think AI is going to need guardrails, but I have witnessed AI firsthand. I was at the Alpha School in Austin, Texas, and the first 2 hours of every day in that school, students are learning through AI. They have their headsets on, they're in front of their screens, and the AI is really acting as like an individual tutor for those students, allowing those students that can progress faster to do that. Those who need a little catch up, it refeeds information to them. And so after those 2 hours of learning, the basics of what they're doing in their curriculum that day, then they spend the rest of the day, they have good recess and all of that time, but then they spend the rest of the day in what are called life skills, and they're actually using the information that they've learned this morning. So I've seen some AI in action that is really proving quite beneficial.
Michael.
Thank you, Caroline. Secretary McMahon, as the Education Department continues to pare down, can you talk about taxpayer services like charter school grants and how the department will continue to assist kids with special needs?
Well, we are going to make sure that there's no interruption in getting that grant money out the door. That money is it comes from Congress. It's appropriated by Congress, and we legally are obligated to do that. And the transitions we're starting to make, our first programs that went over to the Department of Labor, that was a few weeks ago. We actually signed the first interagency agreement, which we accomplished under the authority of the Economy Act. We transferred grants for WIOA and for the Perkins Act. And the really good news is that the Department of Labor has a much more sophisticated system, technology system and grant fulfilling system than the Department of Education does. As a matter of fact, our executive manager that went over with that group over to Labor said he would compare what the labor system is to education's like held together by bubble gum that is not connected to any other part. So we were able to get those grants out the door more smoothly, and states have actually better access for those systems than they do at the Department of Education. So that's a real bonus.
Take a couple more. Carrie, go ahead.
As far as the diversity, equity, and inclusion new regulations that came out from the administrations, a lot of schools, whether high school or even higher education is concerned, some of them are
what happened to the show?
These new administration policies, even apparently according to a new report.
I'm sorry, I can't
hear you.
As far as the,
yeah, I can't hear you either. The audio on this thing is always terrible.
Half of medical schools are defying the administration. when it comes to DEI policies.
Sorry, I
what
clicked
type
the
of
button.
action will the administration take for these schools that are defying the new DEI policies?
Well, certainly the president has been very clear, and the Department of Education has taken measures to make sure that as schools are developing, their policies, or if they have open DEI offices, they're closed, or DEI regulations and rules are stripped, from their programs, and so that will continue.
Great. We'll take one more. Go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. Secretary McMahon, my question is, since you said 3 out of 10 students are literate with regard to their reading capacity, would now the states help to improve those numbers since you have gone back to the states?
Well, what we are finding, that the states that are making great progress, it's through their own innovation. It's not coming from the Department of Education. I think the Department of Education is really misunderstood about what our function is. We don't teach one student. We have nothing to do with the curriculum that are in any states. We are a pass-through pathway from money that's appropriated by Congress to get to the states. But what we have seen in those states that have taken that initiative and they are embracing the science of reading and returning that into their school programs. Louisiana has done it. Mississippi, they call it the Mississippi Miracle, because they were like, I think, bottom or next to last in reading proficiency in Mississippi, and now they're like middle of the pack, which has been a really big jump. Florida has, Iowa has, Tennessee. So, but these are innovations that are done at the state level. This is not anything we're dictating, and that's why I'm saying returning education to the states, where they really are already leading in their education endeavors, and 90% of their budget they provide. The federal government only provides 8 to 10% of the budget for education, so let's make sure that that grant money that's coming from the federal government is getting in their hands as efficiently as possible and getting to students. We don't want teachers having to spend their time and money in regulatory compliance. There was one superintendent chief who said to me that they had done some calculation in their state, and that for every dollar that went into the classroom in a grant, 47 cents was spent in regulatory compliance. So let's get the money into the hands of our students and our teachers. Let's raise the level of education. The other thing I'll do, and I'll quickly wrap up for you, is this 50-state tour that I have embarked on. We've done about 14 states. We've shut down a little bit during the shutdown. But what I am doing is visiting different kinds of schools, grammar schools, middle schools, high schools, micro schools, private schools, charter schools, the whole gambit. And in the end, my goal will be, as we step away and fully deliver education back to the states, is to provide them with a best practices toolkit of all of the things that I have seen around the country to say, hey, this is working. Check with these superintendents, check with these governors. And you know what I found a little bit is governors are a little competitive, so it's kind of nice to give some of these best practices out there. It'll work because it's already working. If we leave it with the people who are closest to the students, the president believes, as do I, the best education is that's closest to the child, and parents' involvement is critical to the success.
Awesome.
Thank you
well,
so much.
Linda. Thank you so much. I appreciate your comment today. Thanks for your great work.
Whoops.
And
Thank
she's
you all very much.
a busy lady, so we'll let her
Come
get
on.
back to work. All right. Thank you again. Well, let's get to it. You guys were so calm with her. I wish you were that calm with me. We'll kick off with our new media seat, as always. Javier, why don't you start us off, and then we'll get to the rest of the room. Go ahead.
You didn't introduce Javier.
My name is Javier Negre. I'm from Spain. I'm the owner of the biggest media platform in Hispanic politics, with brands like La Derecha Diario, Ida TV, or UH Plus, or Vicegrad in Spanish. And I'm happy to be here. Thanks for supporting the new media, also in the Hispanic community. We try to fight against medias like Telemundo, Univision, CNN, or NBC News that are spreading fake news and attacking the ICE operations. We will premiere this Sunday the Real America's Voice, the right news show, the first Hispanic show against communism and woke culture that is promoted by people like George Soros to bring communism all over the world, like happened in New York. I have two questions for you, if you don't mind. In Mexico, the young people is protesting against President Sheinbaum. They think she's doing nothing against the cartels. Sheinbaum used the police to attack them, young people, kids, girls, and she's attacking journalists like me in a country where 150 journalists have been killed in the past years. the USA legacy media is attacking President Trump for his comments about the fake news media, while they are not publishing anything about the murders of journalists in Mexico. Why do you think they stay silent about the murders of journalists in Mexico and the attacks to businessmen like Ricardo Salinas? And my second question is, Trump said he has a plan for the narco state of Venezuela. Does he have a plan for Mexico where, according to Stephen Miller, the cartels are controlling governments and territories?
Sure. Well, thank you, Javier, for the question, and thank you again for being here. We're proud to have new media voices in the briefing room. As for President Sheinbaum and the president's relationship with Mexico, I will tell you that we have seen historic strides from President Sheinbaum and her administration in Mexico when it comes to cracking down on the cartels. They have been incredibly cooperative with the president's efforts at our southern border to crack down on illegal immigration and also the illegal trafficking of drugs at the southern border. Now the president is very interested in taking additional measures against the drug cartels. He's been very clear about that. He's spoken about it, and this is a promise that he made to the American public. And so his national security team is discussing these options all of the time. And on the campaign trail, the president promised to take on the cartels. He has taken unprecedented action to do so, and he has left additional options at his disposal on the table. So those are only decisions that the president can make. Thank you.
The silence of the legacy media about the murders of journalists in Mexico. 150 journalists have been killed in the past years.
Yeah, well, it's certainly something I wish the media would report on more, and it's something that this administration absolutely condemns. I can't speak for the media, but I can speak for the president. That's not something he wants to see. Thank you. Sure.
Thank you, Caroline. Is there anything that Mayor-elect Mamdani could say
Here we go.
tomorrow that would ease the president's concerns about his future leadership in New York?
Mamdani's coming to the White House.
For the president or get ahead of this meeting that we are currently working on tomorrow. As you saw, the president put out a statement tomorrow that the mayor-elect will be coming to the Oval Office, and so our teams are arranging those details. I won't get into the president's thinking on it. I think you'll all hear from him directly.
He said the communist mayor.
I will just add, it speaks volumes that tomorrow we have a communist coming to the White House, because that's who the Democrat Party elected as the mayor of the largest city in the country.
That is exactly right.
It's very telling, but I also think it speaks to the fact that President Trump is willing to meet with anyone and talk to anyone and to try to do what's right on behalf of the American people, whether they live in blue states or red states or blue cities, in a city that's becoming much more left than I think this president ever anticipated in his many years of living in New York himself.
Yeah, don't think that they're not going to make a big deal about the fact that he's a communist.
6
100%.
Democratic lawmakers of seditious behavior punishable by death.
Oh, good. We were just talking about that.
Just to be clear, does the president want to execute members of Congress?
No. Let's be clear about what the president is responding to.
Does the
because
president
many
want
in
to
this room
execute?
want
That's
to talk
funny.
about the president's response, but not what brought the president to responding in this way.
Yeah.
You have sitting members of the United States Congress who conspired together to orchestrate a video message to members of the United States military, to active duty service members, to members of the national security apparatus, encouraging them to defy the president's lawful orders. The sanctity of our military rests on the chain of command. And if that chain of command is broken, it can lead to people getting killed. It can lead to chaos. And that's what these members of Congress who swore an oath to abide by the Constitution are essentially encouraging. We have 1.3 active duty service members in this country. And if they hear this radical message from sitting members of Congress, that could inspire chaos, and it could incite violence, and it certainly could disrupt the chain of command. These 3 members of Congress, I will also add, knew exactly what they were doing. You look at Alyssa Slotkin. She's a former member of the CIA. Mark Kelly was a captain in the U.S. Navy. Maggie Goodlander was a naval officer, and notably, she is also the wife of Joe Biden's national security former advisor, Jake Sullivan. And so these members knew what they were doing. They were leading into their credentials as former members of our military, as veterans, as former members of the national security apparatus to signal to people serving under this commander-in-chief, Donald Trump, that you can defy him and you can betray your oath of office. That is a very, very dangerous message. And it perhaps is punishable by law. I'm not a lawyer. I'll leave that to the Department of Justice and the Department of War to decide.
But the president has
Chris,
frequently, but Caroline, can I just follow up? The president and the vice president, for that matter, have accused the other side of encouraging political violence. Isn't that exactly what the president is doing when he says that members of Congress should be killed?
Why
That's not
aren't
what
you
he
talking
said.
about what these members of Congress are
He
doing
said it's punishable
to
by
encourage
death.
and incite violence? They are literally saying to 1.3 million active duty service members not to defy the chain of command, not to follow lawful orders.
Actually,
Every single
you can refuse an illegal order, which
but
is
they
a
are
uniform
but
code
they're
of military
suggesting
justice.
they're suggesting, Nancy, that the president has given illegal orders, which he has not. Every single order that is given to this United States military by this commander-in-chief and through this chain of command, through the Secretary of War, is lawful. And the courts have proven that. This administration has an unparalleled record at the Supreme Court because we are following the laws. We don't defy court orders. We do things by the books. And to suggest and encourage that active duty service members defy the chain of command is a very dangerous thing for sitting members of Congress to do. And they should be held accountable, and that's what the president wants to see. Phil.
And he didn't say kill them. He said punishable by death. That's if, they're innocent until proven guilty.
A former U.S. citizen.
And they're alive until executed.
3 decades in jail for selling state secrets to Israel. Did the White House know that that meeting was going to happen? Does the administration condone it?
The White House was not aware of that meeting, but the president stands by our ambassador, Mike Huckabee, and all that he's doing for the United States and Israel.
You said that the president was going to do what was right for U.S. citizens, regardless of whether they lived in blue or red states. I'm curious if there's any chance in tomorrow's meeting with Mayor-elect Mamdani that he will be able to convince the president to abandon that promise to cut off federal funding to New York City.
Look, Phil, we'll see how the meeting goes tomorrow, and I'll let the president speak for himself.
Tomorrow's going to be a big day at the White House. Communists come to the Capitol.
When he called a reporter piggy.
Look, the president is very frank and
These are the
honest
dumbest
with everyone in
questions.
this room. You've all seen it yourself. You've
What
all
did he
experienced
mean
it yourselves.
when he called
and
a
I think
reporter piggy?
It's one of the many reasons that the American people reelected this president, because of his frankness. And he calls out fake news when he sees it.
Yeah.
He gets frustrated with reporters when you lie about him, when you spread fake news about him and his
fake
administration.
news.
But he also is the most transparent president in history, and he gives all of you in this room, as you all know, unprecedented access. You are in the Oval Office almost every day asking the president questions. And so I think the president being frank and open and honest to your faces, rather than hiding behind your backs, is frankly a lot more respectful than what you saw in the last administration, where you had a president who lied to your face and then didn't speak to you for weeks and hid upstairs and didn't take your questions. So I think everyone in this room should appreciate the frankness and the openness that you get from President Trump on a near daily basis. Go ahead.
As a follow-up,
I know I do.
The Washington Post just reported that the Coast Guard has
I'm
stopped
calling on
considering-
Bloomberg. Go ahead.
Caroline, thank you. 2 questions for you. The New York Times is reporting that the administration is now sending a U.S. official to the G20. They're sending Mark Dillard. Can you confirm if that is true, and then also explain the shift in?
I'd be happy to explain, because there is not a shift. The United States is not participating in official talks at the G20 in South Africa. I saw the South African president running his mouth a little bit against the United States and the president of the United States earlier today, and that language is not appreciated by the president or his team. The ambassador, or the representative of the embassy in South Africa, is simply there to recognize that the United States will be the host of the G20. They are receiving that send-off at the end of the event. They are not there to participate in official talks, despite what the South African president is falsely claiming.
On Ukraine, there have been reports that President Zelensky said, he's looking to look at the plan, that there's been reports about the Trump administration proposing a plan. Can you just give an update on where Russia-Ukraine stands, and does the president plan to speak with Zelensky anytime soon, or when can you expect that?
So I'm happy to provide an update. I've seen quite a bit of reporting on the latest with Russia-Ukraine, so let me clarify and give you guys the truth on where it currently stands. President Trump has made it very clear since day one and even on the campaign trail that he wants to see this war come to an end. He has grown increasingly frustrated with both sides of this war, Russia and Ukraine alike, for their refusal to commit to a peace agreement. But nevertheless, the president and his national security team are steadfast in seeing this war come to an end, to end the killing and deliver on the president's promise. Special Envoy Witkoff, Marco Rubio, have been working on a plan quietly for about the last month. They've been engaging with both sides, Russia and Ukraine, equally to understand what these countries would commit to in order to see a lasting and durable peace. That's how you get to a peace negotiation, right? That's how it worked with Israel, with respect to Israel and Gaza and all of the Arab countries in the Middle East. That's how we accomplished that historic agreement, which the UN, by the way, voted to commit to and accept this week, which was a huge monumental moment. So they have been engaged with both sides, and these talks are continuing. As always, I'm not going to litigate the details of this plan as it's ongoing and it's in flux, but the president supports this plan. It's a good plan for both Russia and Ukraine, and we believe that it should be acceptable to both sides, and we're working very hard to get it done. And I'll also add, I know Secretary Driscoll did meet with President Zelensky today. We spoke with him. He was very optimistic following that meeting. And so, again, we are having good conversations with both sides with respect to ending this war.
Caroline?
Sure. Go ahead.
Follow-up on Ukraine. You said this is a good plan. So according to our sources, this proposal demands major concessions from Ukraine and doesn't demand much from Russia. So was Russia involved in drafting
Your
this?
understanding is wrong. Have you read the full plan? You haven't.
Sources say.
Yes.
So if you can give details,
You've
That's
read
what our
reporting
sources
from one
say.
side of the war.
Yeah.
And so I want you to understand that the administration has talked equally with both sides. You have seen President Trump engage directly with both President Putin and President Zelensky. Likewise, his national security team has as well. In fact, Special Envoy Witkoff and Secretary Rubio met with some of the Ukrainians just in the past week to discuss this very plan. And so just like you saw with respect to Israel and Gaza, we are hearing out both sides of this war to understand what can you commit to end the war. And that's ultimately how we are going to get to an agreeable solution. That's what the president has directed of his team. I know there's a lot of criticism out there and a lot of doubters, but I would just remind you of the historic success that this president and his team accomplished in the Middle East. We believe that is possible with Russia and Ukraine, and we're hoping and working very hard to achieve that. Stephen.
Could you provide a little more context on what to expect tomorrow with the Mamdani meeting? Will it be in the Oval Office, or is it going to be open at least partially to the press?
I don't have any more details to read out for you on the meeting quite yet, Stephen. I know it's of great interest to you and the New York Post, but we'll keep, maybe if it opens, we can commit to letting you in. Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. It came up yesterday during a confirmation hearing for the president's pick to lead the CFTC that the CFTC currently has 0 Democrat commissioners, whereas usually it's had 2 or more. Does the president plan to appoint Democrats to financial regulators like the CFTC and SEC, or does the president feel that there shouldn't be Democrat leadership at those agencies, consistent with the administration's move earlier this year to remove Democrats from the FTC and other agencies?
I'm going to be completely honest. I haven't spoken to the president about the CFTC in quite some time, but I'm happy to check in with our presidential personnel office and see if there's any updates that we can provide you there. Sure.
Thank you, Caroline. Last week on Fox News, President Trump said that we've had a lot of problems with the French. How would you describe the current relationship between France and the U.S.?
These questions are kind of all over the place today.
Very strong. President Trump speaks quite
and not one about Epstein so
with
far.
Emmanuel Macron. I think they have a good working relationship, but the president is not shy to point out when he has disagreements with world leaders as well, and he's done that with respect to Mr. Macron as well. Deanna, go ahead.
Caroline, there are reports that Qatar is acting as a mediator in the Ukraine peace process. Can you confirm that, and why did the president choose that country?
I'm not going to get into further details other than what I previously shared, which I think was quite a bit of information.
Yeah.
Brian?
Thank you, Caroline. 2 questions. We were talking about earlier in this briefing about the president's orders. You were going back and forth about what the ad said and what it didn't say. My first question is...
The ad?
The advertisement that the Senate Democrats were featured in. So my first question is, no matter what the order is, it could be to any administration official, military or otherwise, no matter if legal experts might think it's illegal. Does the president expect those cabinet members, administrative officials to go ahead with those orders regardless of any outside thinking or experts?
The president expects his cabinet officials in the administration to follow the law and to demand accountability and hold people accountable for their dangerous rhetoric. And I would just add that if this were Republican members of Congress who were encouraging members of the military and members of our United States government to defy orders from the president and from the chain of command, this entire room would be up in arms. But instead, it is the other way around, and I think that's quite telling. I'm going to let you all go because the president, excuse me, I appreciate the encouragement this morning, but this afternoon. But President Trump is about to meet in minutes with Israeli hostages who this administration freed, and
Oh my
so
God,
I'm going
they're
to go up
so
to that
rude.
meeting, and you will hear more about that later. Thank you.
Misquoted Democrats in that video. That's actually not what they said.
Oh my God, Caitlin Collins is trying to yell some questions. Caitlin Collins is mad because Caitlin Collins did not get to ask her one-sided question. By the way, the Democrats, 100%, and they're going to lie because they're CNN and that's what they do. But here's the lie that the left is trying to spin for these, what do you call them? Seditious traitors, treasonists. I think it was seditious behavior punishable by death. All right, that's what he said. This is really bad. Seditious behavior from traitors. Lock them up is what Donald Trump said. So again, here's the truth about this video. First of all, this video is horrible. The fact that anybody, a representative of Congress, a senator, Mark Kelly, this idiot from Colorado, any of these people would go on the record as to saying, hey, you know what? We believe that the president of the United States is giving illegal orders, and we want to remind every single man and woman in the United States military that they must defy those orders. And what they don't tell you is that the majority of men and women in the military are not trained in the law. They don't know. They know maybe the Uniform Code of Conduct. And as we heard in that thing, maybe 90% of them remember exactly what it is. They don't know what's legal and what's illegal. They don't have the Department of Justice, any team of lawyers that the Department of War and the White House have at their aid. They don't know what kind of thinking and vetting goes into each and every order given by President Donald Trump. And as a result, the levels of command below him. They have no clue basically what they're talking about, which should be no secret to anybody. But the fact of the matter is they're asking enlisted, whether it's a private, first class, PFC, whether it's a yeoman, or an aviator in the Air Force, whether it's some Space Force, what do they call it? Guardian, whatever it is, they're asking those people to decipher what is and what is not a legal order. And they have no basis doing any of that. They have no training in that. They have no expertise in that. It is really wild, and it is crazy that they would even suggest it. But of course, it's Democrats. Now, what the media is trying to do is they're trying to turn this on President Donald Trump, and they're ignoring, as Caroline Leavitt rightly pointed out, they're ignoring the fact that these people even said this and released this horrible video, and they're focusing on the fact that President Donald Trump wrote, "This is really bad and dangerous to our country." Look what he wrote first. "Their words cannot be allowed to stand. Seditious behavior from traitors. Lock them up? ? Lock them up just means they've committed a crime and they should be locked up, because that's what we do with criminals. That's what we want to do with criminals in this country. We want to lock them up. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. He also then wrote back, of course, the next one, seditious behavior, punishable by death, which, again, he's not saying kill anybody. He's saying if they're found guilty of seditious behavior, that is punishable by death, because that's the penalty for treason in this country, as the Democrats were quick to remind us during their bogus impeachment scandals and trials over and over again. Now, what Caitlin Collins from CNN was going to try to argue is that they didn't say to disregard orders. They said to disregard illegal and unlawful orders, and that it's their duty to do so. But again, they're basically trying to seed doubt, or sow a seed of doubt in the minds of enlisted men and women that their commander-in-chief is breaking the law. And that 100%, I believe all of these elected officials who took part in this video should be handled as some kind of traitor to the country, or at least be investigated for that kind of seditious behavior. Stephen Miller, no shocker, also believes that.
It is insurrection, plainly, directly, without question. And when you have one of the lawmakers on that video being unable to state in, as you say, lengthy cross-examination, a single so-called illegal order, it just proves the point. It's a general call for rebellion from the CIA and the armed services of the United States by Democrat lawmakers, saying that you have not only the right but the duty and the obligation to defy orders of the commander-in-chief, that those who carry weapons in America's name should defy their chain of command and engage in open acts of insurrection, that the CIA, the clandestine service, which isn't even legally authorized to operate in the United States, should engage in, again, acts of rebellion and insurrection. These lawmakers should honestly resign in disgrace and never return to public office again for even daring to think, let alone to say these words, and to say them proudly. But it shows what a dangerous moment we're in. We have seen the Democratic Party nurse the flames of violence and insurrection against the federal government for the last 10 months. When you see this continuous campaign of violence against ICE officers and Border Patrol agents, when you see Democrat sanctuary politicians and Democrat sanctuary governors side with the rioters, side with the assaulters over federal law enforcement, and that spills even into juries and grand juries, when you see Democrat jurors engage in nullification to let off violent attackers who are engaging in physical violence, physical assault against federal officers. This is a dangerous moment. You have a political party, an organization, the Democrat Party, and their message is that any action, no matter how unlawful, no matter how dangerous, no matter how much it threatens constitutional order, is justified if it keeps Democrat policies in effect at any cost.
Yeah, that's a really great summation, but calling it insurrection, I think that's exactly what it is. It's an insurrection. It's a coup against the government. If you're inciting military to defy orders of the government, I mean, that is one of the worst things I think you could do as a what happened? Oh, I just moved my I just slid my camera halfway across. I think I kicked my camera. I slid it halfway across the floor. That's one of the most dangerous and irresponsible things you can do as an elected official at any level, especially though if you're in Congress, especially if you are, and all of them. This is the most baffling thing, is that what they did was they went out and they found all these former military men and women who now serve in Congress. And they did that because they thought by finding former military men and women who now serve in Congress, they could somehow, I guess, seep into the minds of current enlisted men and women. Like if they're like, hey, you know what? We're just like you. We know exactly what you're going through. And we know how many men and women in the military do you think are these orders I'm following legal? I don't think many of them do. And what they're referring to, I think mostly is, of course, the Venezuelan drug boats. The Venezuelan drug boats getting blown out of the water, which, again, before the order is given to attack the Venezuelan drug boats, they are vetted. They know the crew. They know the cargo. They know the departure. They know where they're going to be landing. They know all that information. And the order is given from the top to the bottom, and the bottom, I haven't heard anybody complain. I'll be honest with you. Not one person has come out, or there hasn't been a single whistleblower saying we are just willy-nilly blowing boats out of the water for no reason. I mean, Donald Trump is not an idiot, despite what the media tells you. Pete Hegseth is not an idiot, despite what the media tries to tell you. These people know that if they publish unclassified video of boats getting blown out of the water, they know that the media will be all over them. They know that there will be no place for them to hide. They know they will be, investigated like you've never been investigated before. And all of these people have been investigated pretty well. I mean, they've been through it at least a couple of times. Donald Trump's been indicted multiple times. So all of these things that are going on, it is true that Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth and the rest and Stephen Miller and everyone else at the White House, they know exactly what's legal. They know exactly what's not legal. They know exactly what's going to be challenged in court. They know exactly how to argue against it, and they know exactly how to win. And as Caroline Leavitt rightly pointed out, not one order Donald Trump has given to the military as the commander-in-chief has come out or turned out to be legal. Or I'm sorry, illegal. Oops, they're going to clip that one. Has turned out to be illegal. But they're trying to sow that seed of doubt in the minds of military men and women, and it is deplorable. It is deplorable. I imagine there will be some kind of action taken. On a lighter note, before we move on, I did want to share with you something that happened yesterday at the Saudi Economic Forum or Saudi Economic something or other conference, whatever I don't even know what they called it. But President Donald Trump was up giving a speech, which is always a great occurrence. And President Donald Trump had some things he wanted to say about, this is great, about Fed Chair Jerome Powell.
Mortgage rates are down despite the Fed. Scott, you got to work on this guy. He's got some real mental problems. No, he's something wrong with him. It's just sweet. I'll be honest. I'd love to fire his ass. He should be fired. Guy's grossly incompetent. And he should be sued for spending $4 billion to build a little building. I'm building a ballroom that's going to cost a tiny fraction of that, and it's bigger than the whole thing put together. You got to work on him, Scott. The only thing Scott's blowing it on is the Fed. Because the Fed, the rates are too high, Scott. And if you don't get it fixed fast, I'm going to fire your ass, okay? I can't tell you, Scott, sir, don't fire him. Sir, please don't fire him. He's got 3 months to go. Don't fire him. I want to get him out, Scott. Please. He's the voice of reason. You're very lucky you have him, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, very lucky. That's Scott Bessent, by the way, the Treasury Secretary, who apparently is the voice of reason telling President Donald Trump not to fire Jerome Powell. And don't worry, Donald Trump's not going to fire Scott Bessent at all. He's one of the best Treasury Secretaries I think this country's ever had, and he will be missed when he's gone, unless of course he returns in some capacity in the next administration. Remember, we have high hopes that President Donald Trump will be able to choose the successor to continue his legacy. We all have high hopes that he will choose the successor to continue his legacy moving forward, and that person will choose probably a lot of the same or similar people to serve in their cabinet, so that we get the same kind of production out of the next president of the United States that we got out of this president of the United States. Speaking of production, speaking of producing, you know what, that's actually, there's really absolutely no segue I can make here. But I did want to remind you that we have coming up very quickly, 2 weeks from today. As a matter of fact, I didn't even realize it was here this quickly. 2 weeks from today is our Ho Ho Hold'em charity poker tournament to benefit Kay's kids. Now, also 2 weeks from today, we kick off the 12 days of Christmas, which, fun fact, I'm going to be recording here in just a minute. Right after we wrap up our broadcast, we have a game coaching call, and then I'm off to record with some of our kids. We're going to start giving them their special holiday gifts that we're able to purchase because of your generous donations and your involvement in the Ho Ho Hold'em charity poker tournament. December the 4th, 2 weeks from today, you will be able to sit down and play poker with moi and some other Patriots from all over the globe. We've sold a bunch of tickets. We only have 3 tickets remaining at the VIK table, the very important Patriot table. That is the table that is live streamed. If you've ever watched this, the live streaming table is incredible. It's the place to be. There's VIK prize packs and other fun stuff that goes along with it. And you get to play with me. Hannah will also be there. There'll be some other fun folks that we're going to bring along. And it's going to be really exciting. There's also regular single tickets available. And we've sold a bunch of those. Now, the good thing about the single tickets is if you or your date want to come together, you get yourself a couple of tickets, and we can just keep adding tables and adding tables and adding tables. But we have a limited number of full tables at the discounted rate, and we only have 6 remaining. So if you're one of those people that comes every year and you want to bring your friends, get together with 8 folks and get yourself a table. You'll get 2 tickets for free. Spectators also welcome, but we do limit the number of spectators, and we've already sold a bunch of those as well. kayskids.com is the website address, www.kskids.com. It'll take you to a page that says the Ho Ho Hold'em Charity Poker Tournament, Thursday, December 4th. You just pick out the tickets you want and you grab them. Now, a lot of people say to me, Mark K, I'm not in town. I don't live in Jacksonville. I'm nowhere near Best Bet Monument Road, which, by the way, is the best poker. I mean, it's the best poker room, really, probably in the country, definitely in Florida. But a lot of people say, Mark K, I'm nowhere near there. Well, how can I help your K's Kids charity? Well, you can go there. You can make a donation too. There's a donation link, and you're more than welcome to make a donation of any size, and we will put it toward our K's Kids charity. And then on December the 4th, you're also going to get to start meeting some of our K's Kids for this year's 12 Days of Christmas. So we're very excited about all of that, and we appreciate everybody who's already purchased your ticket. Make sure you get yours if you want to come. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, subscribe to the show. Make sure that you set the notifications so that every single time we go live, you get notified and you know, yes, we're here. Yes, it's happening. Because we don't want you to miss a single minute. We want you to stay informed. We want you to stay inspired. We want you to stay entertained too. We want you to have the enlightenment, and we want you to be invigorated, and we want you to every single day join us so that together we can keep learning and we can stay strong and we can fight so we can save the Republic.